Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining and yet another edition of the P4PE Talk, where we examine information, details that are required for professionals to continue to advance what they do in various areas. My name is Joel Onike, and I am your host and speaker for today's session. We're here today to discuss the SHRM 2026 changes to the BAS cases. The SHRM certification landscape has changed. This session will help you understand exactly what changed, what stayed the same, and how to prepare intelligently if you choose to write the exam. My goal is simple: to help you to avoid studying outdated materials and improve your chances for passing the SHRM CP or the SHRM SCP examination, as the case is, right? Whichever one that you are currently positioned to write. The P4PETalks series is focused on developing professionals and individuals and teams using insights that has been properly and carefully curated in order to assist them in their personal development, business growth, and also their career advancement. The P4P Talk is a solution from P4P Institute, which helps organizations to advance and grow and deliver results in various areas. We are known very well for our consulting initiatives, our training and capacity building activities, and also our research and advocacy, especially in compensation and benefits, and also in performance management. So once again, I say welcome to this particular session. It's also an honor because we are celebrating our 15 years anniversary. We've been built on trust, and we have sharpened our challenge across board. We are very focused in building institutions that work and also building people that can lead and deliver results in various areas. We are here and ready for the next chapter in what we are working on as much as possible. Thank you very much. My name is Joel. I am a trusted advisor. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. And I'm popularly referred to as the HR Godfather. I've had an interesting career in the past 27 years, helping executives to achieve as much as possible within their business environment and their organization. And today I am going to be running this particular session for you. And this brings us to our conversation. Why exactly did we choose to make this webinar? Why this webinar, as the case is? What we hope to achieve by means of this particular webinar, all right? So that as much as possible, we can achieve great results in those particular areas. The biggest risk today is not that people who write the exam are lazy. No, it's not laziness. Because we've had the opportunity to train over 400 to 500 candidates in preparation for the HR certification exam. And we've seen quite a lot of candidates. The biggest challenge we notice is studying with outdated assumptions. Some of us are studying with historic knowledge, background, and information of what we know. And I tell you, HR in Nigeria is not global HR. HR in Nigeria is not exactly what the exam is testing. So do not rely on that only, as the case is. Most candidates fail because they memorize contents without understanding the blueprint behind the exam. And the SHRM certification, especially just as the HRCI, has continuously refined their blueprints. Knowing those changes early enough gives you a strategic advantage over the candidates that are preparing blindly for this particular exam. All right? So we will be looking at what has been updated. We'll be looking at areas that have been made more prominent. In recent times, there is now more AI and analytics in the exam. There is diversity and global mindset has been restructured in the exam. There are new competency clusters that now exist, and the old materials may not fully align with the exam blueprint anymore. Understanding these changes can improve your effectiveness as you prepare for the study. By by show of hands or by sending an emoji, how many people here are preparing for the 2026 exam? How many of you are preparing for exams for this year? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've seen a hand raised up. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right. So this session is particularly very useful for you as we progress at this point in time. Thank you very much for indicating. All right. What will we cover in the next 45 minutes or thereabout? We're going to be looking at why SHRM decided to update their BASC. We'll look at what exactly has changed, right? We'll separate facts from rumors. So some of our students kept coming to us and saying that we heard that the whole exam has changed, that they are no longer using the material, that everything has changed completely. So we'll find out what changed and what did not change. Then we'll examine the new competency structure, the AI implications, and how these changes affect your preparation strategy towards the exam. Finally, we will show you where to find updated resources and how you can study and what you should study differently as you prepare the exam. Going to break this discussion into 3 parts. The first part is why the change? Why did they decide to make some changes at this point in time? Well, generally, you'll agree with us that HR has changed. It's not just SHRM. Globally, even in Nigeria, HR is changing. So also the certification must reflect these changes, these realities that we are seeing. The BASC is not updated randomly, so it's not a random update. It's not like SHRM feels like shaking up the system. No, the world has changed. SHRM conducts extensive research with HR practitioners to ensure that their framework reflects today's workplace realities. And some of our veterans in HR in Nigeria are also part of the people who submit their own best practices and their research to SHRM. So SHRM can consider it in what is changing at this point in time. HR leaders are expected to understand analytics, technology, inclusion, and strategic business decisions. The certification blueprint must therefore evolve alongside the profession as the profession is evolving at that point in time. Now, if you look at the timeline for the years that has passed, you notice that since 2019, they started doing a research, right? Just around the pandemic period, as the case is, they started doing some research. And between 2020 and 2025, they were validating that research. For some of you who have written the exam, there are some topics you might have found in the exam. They were testing those particular topics. Now they are ready, and they've decided to include it in their BASC as they release it to the world at this point in time. So this is what SHRM has been up and about doing over time. So the first principle that we will notice in the certification program is that the BASC is the blueprint. If you're preparing for the SHRM exam, make sure you have spent sufficient time going through the BASC as the case is. And it is important that you will examine all the content as the case is. Questions are written from this particular BASC, not from textbooks. The questions are not from the textbooks you buy from the market. It's not from the textbook you get from P4PE Institute. It's not from the textbook you get even from SHRM as the case is. The exam is based on that BASC. Now, what is the BASC? It's an exam blueprint, right? It has competencies listed in it. It has sub-competencies listed in it. And the proficiency indicators for each of those particular competencies and the knowledge domain that you must have. The BASC is not a practice question bank. It is not a test hack that shows you how to hack the exam. And it's not a guide to memorize. So do not memorize the BASC. Neither is it a study note, as the case is. All right. So many people buy books first before they start preparing. No, study the BASC first before you get any book. That's a backward way of doing it. The BASC should come first because it defines what SHRM actually tests. Every question originates from that particular blueprint. If you understand the blueprint, you will know where to focus your study and time, and avoid wasting effort on low-value topics. Some of the books that we write is written from the perspective of the author. If I write a book for SHRM today, I'll most probably write from my perspective as a HR professional, in addition to the BASC. But sometimes my illustrations, my trajectories, and the things I write might be at tangent or move away from the BASC. So always has the BASC beside you as your guide as you make those particular progress. But what has not changed? It is not everything that has changed. So let's look at what has not changed. So the exam, the changes that we see is evolutionary. It is not revolutionary. That means a lot did not change. Evolution is gradual process. Revolution is massive change. So don't panic. The SHRM did not redesign the entire certification. Much of your existing content remains valuable. Think of this as an upgrade rather than a complete replacement of your course material. The foundation is still intact, but some important priorities and structures have evolved and they deserve attention at that point in time. So things like your concept of SHRM and SCP, they are still unchanged. Multiple choice questions, you still meet it in the exam. Knowledge questions, situation judgment questions, you will meet it in the exam. Behavioral competencies are still central to the entire exam. HR expert domains, it is there. You'll find it inside it also. And then strategic thinking, very critical to the exam at that point in time. So this is what you will see at that point in time. But what percentage of the old materials do you think are still useful? If you have an old material, maybe you bought it last year, last 2 years, or even January this year, as the case is, what percentage of this material do you think is still useful? Can someone hazard a guess? Since I have said a lot of things are still relevant, that is only a small change they made. What percentage of your old material do you feel is still useful based on what we've said now? Since you're confident now, what percentage? Give me a number. 20%, 40%, 80%. What percent do you think is still useful at this point in time? Thank you so much. And you are not far away from it. You're not far away from it. Thank you. I see 80%, 90%. And yes, absolutely. That is what is still useful. Approximately 80 to 90% of the old material is very useful. What this means is that if you take your time and study only the old material and you understand it 100%, if you go to the exam, you'll score 80. At the minimum, you score 80. And guess what? 80% is pass. So you can actually pass the exam even with your old materials. However, it is important for you to look at the extra 20% that has changed, just in case if there is a tilt in that direction and you are able to respond appropriately. And also it helps you to understand what is changing in a profession that you like, and you love. A lot of us love HR. I don't know if we are ready to die for HR, but a lot of us are in sync with HR. We love HR as the case is as much as possible. All right. So what do we do to ensure that we get HR to achieve, so as to understand this very well? Now let's look at the structure of the exam that is still the same. No retreat, no surrender. It is still the same thing from old. Total questions you will answer in the exam is the same thing, 134 questions. This is one of the most important pieces of the good news in the exam, because the format of the exam, the structure of the exam remains the same, all right? And the same overall testing structures. 80% of your questions will come from knowledge items, while 54 questions will come from situational judgment items, and 24 questions remain unscored for testing, as the case is. Total exam time, almost 4 hours, 3 hours, 40 minutes as the case is. And there are two 110-minute sections, which means that there's section 1, you take a break, section 2, before you close the exam. That is the way SHRM exam is structured. So those are familiar terms. Nothing has changed in this particular area. The structure is still the same thing. Now let's progress to the BASC itself. What is the BASC? The BASC is a set of behaviors and knowledge that you should know, you should have in order to succeed within the exam. SHRM is not testing memory alone. It's not testing whether you can cram and pour. The exam combines both technical HR knowledge with behavioral competencies. If you know the right answer, it is very, very important. But applying judgment is even more important than just the right answer. This is why situational judgment questions represent a large portion of the exam as much as possible, as the case is when you go through the exam record. So behavioral competencies is how HR professionals should apply the skills that they have. So it's one thing to acquire the skill, but how do you apply it? That is the behavioral area of the exam. The second area of the exam is your HR expertise. What HR professionals need to know for them to be able to do the exam very well at that point in time. If you combine these two very well, then effectively you will pass the exam ultimately. Now, what is the new SHRM competence architecture? The new competency architecture is broken down just like before into three clusters. Remember, it used to be 9, right? So the new clusters is now 8 as against 9 and plus 1 technical competence area. So one of the biggest structural changes you will find in the exam is in the clustering of the competencies. SHRM now organizes 8 behavioral competencies into 3 clusters: leadership, interpersonal, and business cluster. They are supported by 1 technical competence that is called HR expertise. And this architecture reflects how the modern day HR operates in various areas. For the leadership cluster, leadership and navigation, yes. Ethical practice, still there. Inclusive mindset, that is a change. Relationship management, yes. Communication, yes. Conflict management, yes. I'm sure if you've been reading, you will remember these ones. Business cluster, business acumen, absolutely. Consultation, yes. Analytical aptitude, change. So those are the 2 changes that we notice in this area. The technical competence remain the same thing. People, organization, and workplace domain, they are still the same thing as the cases. These are things that you eat, you can drink with a cup of coffee because they are day-to-day activity. In our experience, most HR professionals appear not to pass the exam because of not the technical competence. We are dons. We are gurus in the technical competence, people management, organizational management, workforce management. We are good in that area. But we struggle with the behavioral competencies. These are the areas HR, we've seen that HR struggles in their examination. All right, so now that we have seen why the exam changed, let's now take a deep dive into what changed. What exactly did they change? And how does it affect the flow of the exam at that point in time? We'll start first with the competency architecture. What is the new competency architecture? Now, the competency architecture has changed. SHRM has simplified the model to reflect how the modern day HR is able to create value in the organization. The new structure is easier for you to understand because it mirrors how we work in HR, how HR leaders work in real practice. Great HR professionals must lead organizations. They must influence people. They must drive business outcomes, and they must master HR expertise. This is now the new structure of the exam. SHRM now organizes the competencies in a way that reflects these 4 dimensions. The first dimension, leadership, right? The purpose of that particular area is that we should be able to lead the organization, no longer being reactive in nature, but we are proactive. We teach our managers how to be good leaders in the organization. We navigate ethical issues within the organization with an inclusive mindset. Then there's also interpersonal skills or interpersonal competence, in which case we must lead other people. You cannot lead people you don't have a relationship with. And so we'll talk about relationship management. What's your relationship as a HR professional with your line managers, with your executives, your ESCO, with the CEO, with regulators as the cases? How are you able to communicate the outcomes and what you're doing in HR? How do you manage conflict that appears with the HR department, with you, or conflict in other parts of the organization where you're called in to mediate and address the issues at that point in time? So those are called interpersonal competency cluster. SHRM expects you to be able to lead people. In the business cluster, the focus is on your deep understanding of the organization you're working for, the industry you are in, and the regulatory landscape at that point in time. That's called business acumen. How do we make money? The business cluster also expects you to play the role of a consultant, internal consultant in your organization. You are able to engage the business to find out where there are issues in the organization and help them to navigate those particular areas. You are very analytical in thinking outside the box, thinking beyond the obvious. So you are able to lead business outcomes. No longer the time when HR is not particularly interested in other parts of the business, where you wait only if you go to business meeting, you wait for your turn. When it gets your turn to discuss HR issues, you discuss. Meanwhile, they have discussed all other parts of the organization, from finance to IT to marketing to sales to production to all other parts of the business, but you did not say anything. This certification requires and demands you to understand the business very well, so you can achieve and you can also support and advise the business appropriately. Then, of course, the fourth one is your technical expertise, which is the HR domains. You should be able to lead HR best practice within your organization as much as possible. You should be able to look at what is the best way of managing HR and try to ensure that your organization imbibes and welcomes those particular practices in its fullest sense within the organization. So if you think of this very well, you begin to ask yourself, are we changing appropriately? Is my HR department appropriately in alignment with this particular area? Because this new competency architecture is a little bit at tangent with what we are used to as the cases. Now, let me take into these four clusters one by one. I'm going to look at leadership, I'm going to look at interpersonal, business, and technical, one after the other. Let's start first with the leadership cluster. So the leadership cluster is no longer optional. It used to be optional for HR professionals, but it is no longer optional. SHRM expects HR professionals to function as leaders, not just administrators. You see, they are gradually trying to make us remove that cap of HR administration. If in our department, in our organization, we are still answering HR admin, it is time to tell leadership that we want to change our name. But beyond changing the name, we need to act in line with it. This cluster focuses on leadership capability, which looks at our ability to navigate various leadership traits and leadership styles within the organization. It also includes ethical judgment, which helps you to balance the scale on ethical practice within the organization, where you will not compromise the values of the organization and your personal values in an attempt to lead the organization. And it now includes a new area that is called inclusive mindset. These competencies are increasingly important because organizations expect HR to influence strategy, to influence culture, rather than simply executing policies. What does this mean for us? We must be able to influence change, drive culture, make ethical decisions within the organization, be able to navigate within complex environments, and be agile as we do this. And then we must build trust and credibility within the organization. So SHRM is expecting us to live the brand. Whatever it is we are saying here, you already must have been practicing it. That's why the exam always emphasizes more. The exam emphasizes more on situational judgment. Are you able to apply the knowledge that you have in this area? Question. Which of these competencies that we have mentioned here do you think is the most difficult for our HR leaders today? Is it inclusive mindset, ethical practice, or leadership and navigation? Which of these three do you perceive is a concern for our HR professionals that they find much more difficult to implement? Which of them is more difficult? Okay, leadership and navigation, ethical practice. Yes, you will have access to the recording once the session is over. The recording is there for you. Leadership and navigation, influencing change. You have mentioned all of it. Okay. Like Tari said, influencing change. Sometimes the organization is set in its own. And so it's a bit difficult for HR to make significant change within the organization at that point in time. Thank you very much. All right. Now that's the leadership cluster. Let's now look at the interpersonal cluster. What does the interpersonal cluster say? What is available in the interpersonal cluster at this point in time? Now, in the interpersonal cluster, we have relationship management that drives execution. We're able to build relationship in various parts of the business in order to drive execution as much as possible. Okay? Something like relationship management, communication, and conflict management. Now, why all of this matters? Because it influences stakeholders. Our ability to influence stakeholders. Our ability to build credibility. Sometimes HR is perceived as not being credible because we don't have a strong voice. And this particular interpersonal part expects us to have a very strong voice. They've already said we should be credible activists, which means that if we believe something, we must stand by what we believe. However, if we find a superior argument, we must shift and carry on that particular superior argument. If you notice that somebody is not receiving the right attention in the organization, you will champion that individual or champion that idea. Do we go to business meeting and they say, okay, let's hear HR's opinion? How many times do they ask for HR opinion? That's the issue of credibility. And when HR speaks, do they listen? We should also resolve disagreements, foster collaboration within the organization, and improve the trust within the organization. So HR succeeds through relationship. You can't work alone, right? HR cannot stay in a cocoon, in a silo, because we are enablers to the performance within the organization. Our technical expertise alone is not enough. And so SHRM recognizes that communication and conflict management are essential capabilities for us to be able to deliver the results that we want within the organization. And strong relationship will increase trust, improve execution, and help HR professionals to influence leaders and employees also more effectively in the organization. The third competency cluster is the business cluster. One major evolution in the BASC is actually the increased emphasis on the business capabilities. This is an area in the BASC that has improved as the case is. Strong emphasis in this particular area. SHRM wants HR professionals who understand organizational performance and people who use analytics, who use data analytics, predictive analytics to make decisions within the organization. HR is moving away from intuition. We feel, we think, we notice, it looks like, it appeared. We are moving away from those to a much more evidence-based decision according to the data, by the numbers. The graph is indicated. The trend shows, our forecast indicates. That's what they want to hear today. So the modern HR is expected to think like a business leader, like a CEO, all right? You must demonstrate business acumen, consultation, and analytical aptitude. What's required? Strategic thinking. Think strategy. Think future. Execute today. Problem solving, whether it is critical thinking, analytical thinking, or problem solving, ensure you solve problems. Then workforce analytics. Show us the workforce dashboard. Show us what is going on within our workforce compared to our industry, within the environment that we're operating in. Speak to us based on evidence so we can take decisions in those particular areas and help us manage and drive business performance. This is what this cluster is about. And a lot of HR people are doing well, the best they can in this particular area. Then the last one is the technical competence. And the technical competence speaks more to our HR expertise. And this is an area that we don't even need to talk too much. We are doing well in it. People management, people domain is about talent and employee experience. So we are very good with employee engagement, employee design, and all those particular things. Talent management from acquisition to development to leadership to even retention within the organization. So we're doing well in those areas. Also in terms of the organizational domain, what structure best fits our organization? How about our performance management system? As the case is, some of us are also doing well in this particular area. And then the last one is workplace domain, risk management, safety, health, security, compliance level, and then our environment. If you know from history, the old HR actually came from the workplace compliance, risk management, and stuff like that. Before we now moved into structure, performance, and then people management at that point in time. So the technical expertise remain the same. It hasn't changed. It contains the traditional body of knowledge, of HR knowledge, and it is organized into those three domains you see here. Candidates who are using older materials will find most of these concepts familiar because the technical foundation remains largely intact. They did not touch this area as the case is, so the material is okay. However, let's look at the three big changes that has happened in this particular material. The first one, the first big change is a collapse of two competencies that became one. They collapsed global mindset. Remember in the class, if you've joined us in one of the classes, when we're discussing globalization as the cases and global mindset, they have collapsed it with diversity and inclusion. When we're discussing diversity and inclusion, I remember in one of those classes where we say that it used to be DEI, that they have now removed E. It is now D and I as the cases. They've come again from removing E. They have now removed the entire D and I completely and joined it together as inclusive mindset. Why? Because inclusion and global awareness cannot be separated in today's organization. This is one of the most visible change in the SHRM material. SHRM has merged diversity and inclusion with global mindset into a single competency called inclusive mindset. And the objective is to help HR professionals to build workplaces where differences are respected and leveraged for business performance. So very soon, we will start respecting the things that make us different completely in the office environment. You will no longer bat an eyelid because a guy walked into the office wearing earrings and wearing lipstick. Because that is what makes him different. All right? We will no longer bat an eyelid in an environment where somebody says he wants to do a gender change because it is part of the inclusive mindset. I can hear some of you shouting on my shell. But that is what the material now says, that we must build an environment where we respect all differences and leverage it in order to design and deliver performance as much as possible. Quick question. Why is it that in banking, in the banking industry, why can't we wear jeans trousers to work every day? Tell me. Why can we not wear jeans trousers to work? Does anyone have an answer? What's wrong with jeans trousers? Why can't it be worn in banking? Yes. Okay, so here is a culture thing, culture thing. So you see, culture makes us to stick to something that is old and outdated. After all, most of the people who are banking, what do they wear? They wear slacks, they wear t-shirts with a lot of jerseys and co. And they wear jeans, they wear sneakers, and they come with big money to the bank. Why are we still insisting that our staff must wear Armani suits with colored ties as the cases? So what makes jeans corporate for customers and not corporate for employees? Ponder that over as you progress. Let me not start my own activist here. Let me move on. But that's an example of inclusivity. So during your graduate training interview, you're interviewing those graduate trainees, and because the young man came in wearing jeans trousers, or the lady came in wearing what they call rugged jeans, rugged trousers, you say, no, this is not, you cannot hire this individual. SHRM says, please don't do it in the exam. Do not do it in the exam. So I just gave you one example, right? That in fact, one of my candidates said he saw something similar like that. All right. So what does inclusive mindset mean? This thing that is called inclusive, since they have updated it, this is the main change. What does it mean? Inclusion is now a business capability. An organization's ability to include everybody is a capability. And a lot of investors are beginning to check your level of inclusivity. It is not social initiative. It's not CSR. It is not ESG, as the case is. It is appreciating the difference of perspective and promoting the fact that we all belong. One happy family. We're trying to reduce bias, stereotyping. We're trying to improve effectiveness of the organization by putting in place a system that is equitable at that point in time. When you're writing this exam, questions will come around fairness. Is it fair? Questions will come around collaboration, cross-cultural awareness. Are you aware that people from this particular nation, are you aware that women are like this? Are you aware that certain personalities are like this? That is the kind of questions you will see, and inclusive leadership. So SHRM is positioning inclusion as a capability that helps us to drive organizational performance within the business, right? And expected scenario-based questions will involve these particular things that we've mentioned here. The emphasis is less notes in the exam. The emphasis is less on terminology. They will not be asking you what is inclusivity. The exam will not be asking you what is fairness, collaboration, cultural awareness. It will not ask those questions. It will be looking for application of those particular terms. It will be looking for more on how leaders create environments. HR managers create environments where diverse perspectives contribute to better outcomes at that point in time. That's what it will be looking for. The second big change we saw in the exam is analytical aptitude. HR is becoming more data-driven, like you can see. In the past 4 years, 5 years, our organization, P4P Institute, has run a lot of programs on HR analytics, HR metrics, and predictive analytics, and people analytics also. So it is becoming in vogue, as the case is. Organizations increasingly expect HR to justify decisions with data. SHRM has strengthened analytical capability because workforce decisions affect business performance. So candidates writing this exam should understand how to interpret trends, analyze information, make evidence-based recommendations instead of relying solely on intuition. When you write this exam, when next you read a question, don't use your personal intuition. I feel like I know this is what they are talking about. Please do not know what they are talking about. Check the data in the question. and use the data to answer the question at that point. The old focus was experience and intuition. The new focus, we have dropped intuition completely and replaced it with evidence and analytics to be able to deliver results at that point in time. So what will you find? It includes things like data interpretation. They'll give you data, maybe give you a graph and ask you to interpret the graph. You see metrics and dashboards in the exam. You see root cause analysis, right? You see decision support systems and how to take those decisions and those areas. And they give you forecast and trend analysis in the exam also. Those are some of the things you will see that will jump out at you in the exam you're about to write. Now let's look at some challenges, other challenges that we are also facing in this particular area. Number 3, change that they've made. They have introduced AI. I know AI will enter this exam. They have introduced AI. AI is now here. All of us that have been running away from AI disagree with AI, that we will not allow AI to enter our organization. It has entered our exam. AI and technology are now part of the conversation. And this is the most future-oriented update we have seen in the SHRM exam, the inclusion of AI and technology, because this is a growing area, not just within HR, but across every sectors of every environment. So AI will not replace HR, let's be clear. But HR professionals need to understand AI. SHRM is not asking candidates to become data scientists, to become prompt engineers. No, that's not what they are asking. Instead, it expects HR leaders to understand responsible use of AI, ethical concerns within AI, analytics use, and technology's impact on the workforce. So guess what? In the exam, they will not be asking you to please generate a prompt. They will not be asking you to critique something. They will be focusing on responsibility, ethical, governance in the use of AI within the organization because of the issues that are currently permeating the use of AI across board in various areas. So topics you find in your exam will include AI, workforce analytics, data privacy, ethical use of AI, HR technology, algorithm bias. A sample question you may see will show you a prompt that a staff has entered on AI, and they will ask you to critique the prompt. So most probably you'll be looking for in that prompt, did the staff reveal confidential information? Did he reveal data that should not be shared in public domain at that point in time? Is he asking the AI to do certain things or generate certain things that appears to be in conflict with our values and things like that? So those are some of the things they will be asking for: interpretation, for explanation, for judgment and decision. That's what you find. The reality about this thing is that SHRM tests responsible use. They are not testing your programming skill. That's not what the exam is testing at that point in time. All right. Question. How confident are you in explaining AI ethics in HR? Now, I'm not saying the entire organization. Now, just HR. Let's just talk about HR. Are you confident? Are you able to explain ethics, AI ethics in HR? Will you say low or will you say high? 1 for low, 2 for, 3 for, 4, I'm okay, 5, I'm high. I've been training on ethics, ethics very, very well, as the case is, on AI ethics and responsible use within the HR space. So how confident are you in explaining this? Okay. Let's see what we are getting. Okay, so mid-range, we're getting numbers around the mid-range, okay? So this also means that we need to find some resource or some materials, all right? Or attend one of the webinars that we run on AI in HR, all right? Or perhaps just find yourself a course, a small course in this particular area, so you can build in those particular areas as much as possible. So we need to be very good in understanding AI ethics especially with respect to HR and then with respect to the workforce in the organization. Now, the final part of this presentation and our discussion on this webinar. Now, how do you move from understanding these changes to putting it into practice in the exam so you can ace your exam? Although I have been talking about what you should do differently in the exam throughout this particular conversation, but let's just share a few other things you may do in order to improve your success rates in the exam. First, AI in HR, what you should know. AI is becoming part of HR practice, and SHRM recognizes this reality. The exam will not ask you to code or explain machine learning algorithms. Instead, the focus is going to be on how AI supports decision-making, where there is risk in AI, and why human oversight is important and remains essential while we are using AI at that point in time. So SHRM expects us to be able to look at and understand how AI is working so we can build it properly at that point in time. So we'll have, okay, somebody is scribbling on the screen. Let me see if I can clear that. All drawings, thank you. All right, so workforce analytics, content generation, candidate screening, how to use AI in candidate screening with the good, the bad, and the ugly in that area, employee self-service tools, and how AI is helping in those particular areas as much as possible. Those are some of the things that, so let's disable annotation so that we don't have this distraction. All right, thanks. Then predictive analytics. So these are the things they expect you to be able to understand. So ideally, candidates writing this exam must understand opportunities in the use of AI, risk inherent inside AI, bias, and all those particular things, all right? Ethics issues in all those areas. They must also understand governance, how to govern AI, who has the ultimate responsibility, what can you post in AI, and what can you not post? We have lost it on social media. The world does not want to lose it on AI. On social media now, social media is now gagged. Everything enters social media. So they are trying to put a leash on AI. So we don't have the problem that social media has. Then human oversight, as the case is at that point in time. Those are some of the things we need to understand with our exam. So what are we saying? Responsible AI is more important than the kind of AI tool you are using. SHRM emphasizes ethics and governance. Technology should support our staff, not replace judgments. Candidates should think like business leaders, maximize benefits while you manage risk at that point in time. So expect a lot of scenario-based questions where efficiency conflicts with fairness, where efficiency conflicts with ethics, efficiency conflicts with privacy. Because one of the good side of AI is efficiency. Now, do we allow that efficiency to affect fairness, ethics, and privacy? Those are some things you need to look out for. So key principle for us, HR owns responsible use. HR does not own just efficiency. It's not enough to sign off and approve an IT deployment in your organization. It's not enough to enable your team members to be AI enabled. It is not enough. We must also judge properly at that point in time. So good technology use without good governance can only create bad decisions within the organization. The exam is also testing judgment more than it is testing memory. That's a new update that they have, so to speak. SHRM is asking, what should HR professionals do next? That's what the question is always like. They always give you a scenario and ask you, what should the HR person do next? So they are asking for the first thing that the person should do. Many candidates spend too much time memorizing definitions. Please don't waste your time on definitions. Because we know in this world that some of us have fantastic memory. We can cram and pour, we will pass. But in practice, we can't apply. So the exam is focused more on judgment than on memory. So almost 40% of the exam questions are judgment related. 40%. So success depends on understanding what SHRM considers the most effective response, not merely recalling facts from the textbook. Let me repeat what I said. I think there was a small distraction there. So the success in the exam depends on you understanding what SHRM considers the most effective response. Most effective response, not recalling facts. So we don't run into confusion in that area as much as possible. So knowledge plus judgment leads to action. So they always ask you, what is the next action to be taken? If you focus on only knowledge, you may not answer with the right action at that point in time. So situational judgment question is asking you to prioritize, analyze, recommend, act. Those are some of the things it's asking for at that point in time. So which type of questions causes the most anxiety? Is it knowledge or judgment? In the exam, if you have written the exam before or any other HR professional exam, which ones causes the most anxiety? Is it knowledge or judgment? Absolutely, I agree with you. Judgment is the main trouble because sometimes you not be asking yourself, what if I say like this? Another person can say like this also. But good judgment is what they are looking at for at that point in time. Judgment is it, as the case is. Now, here are some, before we wrap up, let me just give you some tips. Since we're here, we can share some good lessons. Common mistakes candidates make. Most failures are strategy problems, not intelligence. A lot of candidates are dons. Some of the candidates who see failing the exam, they are HR professionals with 10, 20, 15 years in the HR profession. I know a HR professional, group head of HR in a very large institution with more than 20 years experience, entered and wrote the exam, and she failed. She was very upset. She said that they don't understand HR. So the point is this. Sometimes we use outdated materials only. Sometimes we memorize. We ignore situations.
It's 1 o'clock.
We neglect behavioral questions. We underestimate analytics in the exam. Or we study, we just read randomly without a structured plan of preparing for the exam. See, passing SHRM exam is rarely about intelligence. People who have less intelligence, less experience as the case is, appear to pass it more than some of us who are more intelligent. It is usually about your strategy of preparation. Candidates who ignore the BASC, I've spoken about BASC earlier in our discussion, or candidates who rely on memory, or candidates who avoid situations, judgment questions, create unnecessary difficulty for themselves. Smart preparation is always better than excessive preparation every time. Just be smart about your preparation. In reality, you do not need more than 30 to 45 days to prepare for this exam. If you're spending more than 2 months preparing for this exam, you are making it difficult for yourself. There is something most probably you're not doing very well. Some of the things that we find in the older materials, so if you have the old materials, right, for like some of our team members who passed through the P4P certification preparatory program, your old materials are still relevant, up to 80 to 90% of it. Talent acquisition, L&D, employee relations, total rewards, performance management, employee laws, they are still relevant. But remember, things have changed in AI and analytics and inclusive management mindset. So we have supplementary materials that you need to use for these ones. All right. These supplementary materials are useful. And let me tell you, friends in the house, next year, this exam will change again. Next year, let me say it again, the exam will change. Why will it change? Because of employment law concepts. Effective July 1, 2026, United States of America is changing their HR labor law across most of the states. And the changes are very fundamental. It is going to affect what we have been reading in Module 15, Functional Area 15 in this certification program. A lot has changed. An example, going forward in US, if you advertise for any job, you must put the salary on the paper. When you advertise, you must state how much you're paying for that particular job at that point in time. Going forward, 100% is a new expectation. You must, in Nigeria, we say we will tell you the salary when you get to the last stage. It's a lie. Now, when you advertise in USA, you must put it. That's an example of a change that is happening in that particular area. And a whole lot. Maybe in our next webinar, we'll discuss the changes in those laws, effective next month across the United States. Okay, so those are some of the things that we're seeing that has changed. Now, what do you do in order to ensure you pass the exam? So please start, these are our 5-step, where please take a screenshot of this particular screen. It gives you a guide of how to pass the exam. Study smarter, don't study for long. Smart, sharp, sharp, focused, ace your exam. Step 1, start with the BASC. Go to the website, download it, read it, understand it very well. Step 2, use any learning material that has been updated that you can find. SHRM website has an updated one. P4P Institute have an updated one also. So you can use any one of them. Step 3, master SJQ, situational judgment questions. Practice very well. In fact, if possible, forget all the knowledge questions and focus on situational judgment questions. Understand it very well. Then step 3, go back to AI and analytics, concepts, understand ethics, risk, governance in those particular areas as much as possible. Then sit back, practice until you score, like we recommend in class, at least 80% of all the questions that you're practicing. And then you know you're ready for your exam. This way, you'll be prepared to write this particular exam. Here are some resources that you can access. You can go to SHRM to get their BASC. You can also go to them and get their learning system, or you can come to us who have an updated study materials in this particular area. There are practice questions, over 500 practice questions, including mock exams. There are flashcards, there are revision guides, there are study groups that are necessary for you to use in this particular area. Candidates who pass the exam rarely rely on one source of material. Effective preparation combines all these things we've mentioned here. Multiple sources improve your understanding and expose your knowledge and help you to understand where you have gaps as you prepare towards the exam at that point in time. Now, how have we updated our material? We built our material around the new blueprints, updated the latest BASC as the case is, revised our competency framework. We have also expanded the AI and analytics coverage. We have also added new situational judgment practice questions, restructured the revision question materials itself with sufficient weekly support, coaching, and exam-focused approach if you are ready to make that transition. Your next step at the end of this webinar, you can choose to purchase the updated material. That's option 1. You can join if you have not started. If you have not started, then join the next SHRM CP or SCP preparation cohorts. Or if you're not sure which exam to take or what you should do next from now, then perhaps schedule a one-on-one coaching session. We are willing and ready to talk with you and guide you on what you should do. We just want you to pass with confidence, prepare with clarity, and you'll be able to ace your exam as much as possible. Thank you very much for the time that we've spent in this particular place. This particular resource that we discussed today was gathered from all these resources and references. You can always reference them later. So passing SHRM is not about studying harder. It is about preparing smart so you can achieve the excellence you need in your results. Thank you very much. Any questions or feedback, feel free to share in the chat box. For those who did certification programs with us from January till date, your material already online on ProVarsity has been updated. So you can go and use it and access it. For those who did earlier, you may need to buy the updated material. Just speak to my colleague Ruth. She will respond to you. And for those who are coming for the next stream, you are in good hands when you do come at that point in time. Yes, any questions or feedback? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. The question is, do you have strategy on answering the SJ questions? The strategy is in understanding what is ethical, best practice for HR. Because usually that's what the exam is testing, whether you understand what should be done and not necessarily what is done locally in one environment or in another environment. And like we say in our class, the answer is always in the question. If you look at the question very clearly, you will see an indication the constraints that were mentioned in the exam. You can follow through in that particular area. Other ones requires you to use judgment and experience, what has worked and what has not worked at that point in time. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. For all those who registered for this program, you will have access to this recording. It will be sent to you to your email box so you can rewatch it again and follow through on what has been said. Thank you again, and do have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
I walk where the cold waves sleep on stones that remember war. The tide still hums your broken oath like it did so long before. The sky is low, the air is thin, salt on my open skin. I whisper what I never said when the drums pulled you in. Every step calls out your name, but the sea won't answer back. Oh, where the sea keeps names, not the dead, not the same. Oh, I feel you near in the breath of the water. Oh, where the sea keeps names, broken stars, silent flames. Oh, if you hear my voice, carry it farther. I see your shadow